All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down one of the absolute most cinematic, action-packed sequences you'll ever find in ancient texts. We're looking at a legendary excerpt from the Mahabharata, specifically an epic showdown on Mount Gandhamadana. And let me tell you, this isn't just your standard battle story. It is a meticulously paced narrative full of mythological combat, intense environmental storytelling, and just sheer, unfiltered heroics. So picture this. What actually happens when a single, unstoppable warrior goes up against an entire army of demons at the literal top of the world? It's a crazy setup, right? But what's really fascinating about this narrative is how it immediately sets the stakes for this legendary solo mission against literally impossible odds. The text asks us to imagine a scenario where pure human determination clashes with overwhelming supernatural force. Part 1. Peace on the Mountain. The calm before the storm. Now, to really get the impact of this climax, we gotta set the scene. Imagine this. The Pandavas have been living this totally ascetic, quiet lifestyle up in the mountains for 5 whole years, completely off the grid, zero conflict. They're surviving on what the text calls Muni food. Think luscious fruits, pure honey, and unpoisoned deer. They're just spending their days peacefully entertaining wandering sages and celestial singers. And this long stretch of total tranquility, it's absolutely vital to the story, because it makes the impending violence feel that much more jarring. But before things go sideways, I need to quickly explain what a Rakshasa actually is. Because this isn't just your standard foot soldier. We're talking about fierce, supernatural beings with immense powers of illusion. They swing massive, terrifying weapons. They can fight from the sky just as well as the earth, and they are fiercely territorial. This is exactly the kind of nightmare you're up against when you ascend this mountain. Which brings us to part 2. The unearthly blossoms. The catalyst. Okay, so boom, this 5-year piece is totally shattered by this massive event that kicks our whole story into gear. Out of nowhere, a giant creature named Suparna swoops down and snatches a colossal serpent, a naga, right out of a lake. The sheer physical force of this is so insane, it literally triggers an earthquake. The mountain shakes, giant trees snap in half, and the wind whips up these magical, fragrant, 5-colored blossoms, dropping them right in front of the Pandavas. Talk about a stunning visual awakening from their quiet exile. Seeing these crazy flowers drop from the sky, Draupadi turns to Bhima and issues a serious challenge. She wants to see the summit where these came from, so she tasks him with this monumental solo mission. Go up there, secure the peak, and drive out the Rakshasas so they don't have to live in fear anymore. She basically leverages his past victories to straight up dare him to conquer this mountain. Part 3. Bhima's Mighty Ascent. The hero profiles.
How does Bhima react to this? He feels censured and he is immediately ready for war. Just listen to how the text describes Bhimasena in this exact moment. It stacks all these intimidating physical traits to build up this image of an absolute juggernaut. He walks with the gait of a lion, he has the splendor of gold, glowing red eyes, broad shoulders, and literally the strength of mad elephants. The text says he's as tall as a young solitary. We're not just talking about a strong guy here. This is a walking force of nature answering the call.
So let's track his climb, because the tension here is just brilliant. First step, he grabs his gear. His gold-plated bow, his sword, and his massive signature mace. Step 2, he starts hiking up this incredibly rugged path. And get this, the text specifically points out that the path is so narrow, it only allows for one person to pass at a time. He is entirely alone. Finally, he hits that terrible summit, towering as high as several palm trees stacked end to end. The isolation up there just totally amplifies the suspense. Part 4, the Golden City, the abode of Vaisravana. Now, what he finds at the top is the complete opposite of the brutal war he's about to start. Picture a literal paradise. Bhima steps out and sees golden crystal palaces, walls shimmering with gems, lush gardens, dancing damsels, beautiful trees, and a balmy, perfumed breeze. I mean, it's absolute luxury. It is the domain of the Lord of Treasures. And Bhima? He's about to bring a war right to its front door. Moving into Part 5, Battle with the Rakshasas. The climax kicks off. So Bhima just stands there, totally still, like a rock. And then, bam! He violently shatters the piece. He blows his war shell, twangs his bowstring, and just dares the enemy to come at him. The Yakshas and Rakshasas literally have their hair standing on end from his war cries, and they absolutely swarm him. The action here is breathless. We've got flaming maces, clubs, swords, and axes flying everywhere from the sky and the earth. But Bhima is just effortlessly cutting their darts out of midair with his arrows and piercing the roaring demons. And this is where the text gets incredibly gritty and dark, illustrating ancient mythological combat. It describes a literal deluge of blood. A mighty sanguine rain pours from the bodies of the Rakshasas, flowing on all sides as Bhima's weapons just tear through them. In an instant, this pristine, glittering golden city is totally stained by the brutal reality of this one-man invasion. Now, you'd think being swarmed by an army of supernatural beings would be terrifying, right? Not for Bhimasena. The text compares him to the sun bursting through dark clouds, where his arrows are the rays of light. He's completely unfazed. In fact, he's so dominant that the rank-and-file Rakshasas absolutely panic. They utter these frightful sounds of distress, drop their maces and axes, and just bolt towards the south. He literally broke the army. Part 6, The Fall of Maniman. The Final Showdown. With the grunts running away, the tension peaks, and we get that classic boss fight moment. Enter Maniman. He's a broad-chested Rakshasa, a close friend of the Lord of Wealth. He steps out of the chaos, smiles, and totally shames his fleeing troops. Look at this quote. He's basically saying, "How are you guys going to explain that hundreds of you just got beat by one single mortal?" And with that, Maniman charges at Bhima like a maddened elephant. This step-by-step duel is basically an ancient action movie. Step 1. Bhima strikes first, piercing Maniman's sides with 3 perfectly aimed arrows. Step 2. Maniman gets furious and hurls this massive, lightning-fast mace, but Bhima casually deflects it midair. But then, Step 3. Maniman lands a critical hit. He throws this roaring, flaming iron club with a golden shaft, and it directly pierces Bhima's right arm. The weapon hits the ground, and suddenly our unstoppable hero is actually seriously wounded. The stakes just hit their absolute peak. And this brings us to the final spectacular clash. Wounded, and with his eyes literally rolling with anger, Bhima grabs his golden-plated iron mace. Maniman tries to finish it off, throwing a huge, blazing dart with everything he's got. But Bhima is ready. He smashes the dart with his mace. And then, get this, he literally springs into the sky. Screaming his war cry, he hurls his mace with the speed of the wind, striking down like Indra's thunderbolt. It is the definitive counterattack. The mace absolutely destroys the Rakshasa. The text uses this powerful, primal metaphor to describe Maniman's total defeat. Slain by Bhima like a bull slain by a lion. It's over. Seeing their champion completely crushed, the surviving Rakshasas break completely. They flee east in distress, leaving Bhima standing alone once again at the summit. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think about what this ancient, impossible battle is really trying to show us. We just watched a mortal man climb a mountain entirely alone, stand his ground against an army of illusion-wielding warriors, take a flaming club to the arm, and still leap into the sky to secure victory. It leaves us with a pretty incredible question. If sheer focus, duty, and willpower can allow a single mortal to conquer a supernatural summit, what limits truly exist for human determination? Thanks so much for exploring this epic breakdown with me.